and you're listening to On the Record with Tiffany and my special guest, Dr. Hamed Mizani. So, Dr. Mizani, tell me what has changed for you in the last 2 months with your COVID patients. All of a sudden, we're hit by this pandemic, and now you're dealing with patients that have a novel virus.
Yeah, so, as a doctor, when we started hearing the news about this pandemic coming, toward the United States and cases being announced in different states, New York and Washington and so on, I'll be honest with you, I have never been in a world pandemic in my lifetime. We've read books. We've read tons of microbiology, virology books and learned about microorganisms, but we had never lived through it. And in medical textbooks, you talk about the illness, you talk about possible treatments, symptoms. You never talk about the human aspects of what happens when you have a pandemic in a sense of, you probably read those in history books. So doctors, perhaps we're not trained to deal psychologically with an illness that, such as COVID-19, where you have no known treatments, you know nothing about its course, you don't have a good particular test that you can test people, is essentially as if you're a warrior in 1300s and you send them to the front line and they have no swords, they have no axe, they have no protective gear, they don't know what to do with it, but yet they know that they are the front line. They have to do something. So the psychological warfare, you can call it, on the mind of the healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, people that work in the hospital, from the people that help clean the rooms, to the cafeteria, to the security guard, to the operators, to all of these people suddenly are put on the front line, and we don't know even what we're dealing with. It's pretty scary. So the frightening moment is, I suppose when HIV came, back in the 80s. But here it is something that is respiratory, and you touch things and you may get it. And to some people, they get the virus and they have no symptom, not at all. They don't even know they have it. And others are on life support. It really touched me as a person when a few of my staff, who I work with all these years, sit next to me, got it. And we were like, wow, how did this happen? So we had to test everybody, the entire company, the staff. We had to do fumigation of some sort, to clean the offices. I got tested like 3-4 times. And of course, we started wearing masks. And I'm going back to the early March. And then when I tested their family members and I saw that they got it, they were children. I was doing telemedicine visit, by phone, that they were running around the house. And I'm like, oh, okay, that one over there, that one has it. And the child was like, what? No, I'm fine. No, that one, he needs to be isolated. And it was like this suddenly is like a curse, right? If you tell somebody, oh, you got COVID-19, it's like you cursed them. It's better now. But then, because we knew nothing about the disease, that's what it was.
The unknown is always frightening.
Absolutely. So then I saw, some parents get affected with it, go to the hospital. But what I could not explain to myself, and again, we go through this as any human being, doctors are human, nurses are. We have to internalize the fear, cover it up, but then show calmness, control to our patients, because they're looking up to us for answers.
Yeah. And
we don't have an answer, but we have to show as if we did, because there is the placebo effect. of that in medicine, or the art of medicine, where the patient, when they trust you and they feel that you have all the answers and the cure in your hand, they get better on their own, some of the illnesses. But this particular illness was very different, and the difference was the following. Typically, when you're in the hospital, you're faced with an illness, your family can come visit you. Mom and dad, brothers, sisters, they come hold your hand. But here, because we know nothing about the illness, going back to the March, they were not allowed, the family members of the patients, to come and see their family. Some, and I would say probably many, died alone.
Yeah.
And that, of course, those that left this earth, they're gone, but the ones that are behind, they are inflicted with a wound that perhaps will take years to heal, and that is, I did not hold the hand of my daughter or my son or my mom or dad at the moment of death.
Yeah.
And I think that's one aspect of this that really touched me as a human, as a person. But the other one was, we talked about stay-at-home orders, people that could not leave their home for months, depending what type of home they're in. If there's a one small apartment with, 2 kids, 3 kids, a dog, a husband and wife, it becomes very suffocating, right? Yeah. And also, in contrast, an apartment, a house, an elderly who has no one to come and visit, or they're afraid to go out. They're afraid to open the window. They're afraid to open the door and step out. It is a prison. So the depression sets in, the social isolation, effect of that come in. So, again, we're going through a unprecedented time in our generation of dealing with a pandemic, of a disease that we at this moment don't have a treatment. But I can assure you that not too far from now, we will have a vaccine. Not too far from now, we'll have people vaccinated, which is two different things. You can have a vaccine, but if you don't have the policies, the methods, that a vehicle of how to vaccinate the people, who gets the vaccine first and why, is critical. I hope people that do this for a living are actually have somebody looking at this, logistics. And also at the same time, so you have that to prevent the disease, but then you would have to have medications, which are a significant number of clinical trials actually going on right now, to find a treatment for the patient. So that's coming. So we're going to make it. We're going to get through this. We're going to be fine. We just have to go step by step.
The exciting thing about it is that, it's caused all of us to kind of stop and take a beat and take some stock in what it is that we really value. Because I know for myself personally, having to watch the entire world going through the same thing that I'm going through right now, it was profound, like how a disease could start in one little place and spread across the entire world and literally stop everything and force us all to think about what our priorities are and what's important. Because prior to COVID-19, talking to people about the checkout girl and who we valued was very different. I mean, we always have valued doctors, and we should value doctors because you save our lives. But now we realize that other people save our lives too. Now we know what a respiratory therapist is. Nobody knew what that was before COVID-19.
Or a ventilator.
Yeah, nobody knew what those things were. Or intubated, like everybody knows what that means now. But we realize now that the bus driver is critically important to our lives. Truck drivers critically important to our lives. The janitor. We wouldn't be able to get through this without all of the people who clean and who keep everything clean. for us.
Haircut people.
Well, now I needed the people with hair and nails and all of that stuff. I didn't realize what a little troll I was without without all my stuff and people and accoutrements.
But, in other words, for a society to be what it was and what it will be,
yeah,
there are so many members of the society that are not, appreciated, so to speak. The people that pick up your trash.
yeah.
So these people
And they're
critical.
doing an honest day's work.
They are, and it's very hard.
And we should always say thank you,
Right.
and be appreciative of that, because, and I think that we really are now. You hear people saying good things that we should have said long before this, that now we're saying, oh, you know what? Let me stop and say hello to Gina. Let me stop and say hello to, I know all of my neighbors now, all of a sudden.
I think the world has become more empathetic.
Yeah.
In other words, I do want to hear your story. How are you feeling? How was your day? And why are you smiling? Why are you not smiling? What's happening? So
we're actually taking
positive.
the time.
There are positive effects of this. And we, as you said, we take the time and we pay attention to one another. But I want to thank you for allowing me to come to your show. I mean, this has been an incredible experience for me to tell my story and my thoughts, share it with the listeners. And I'm sure somebody out there is probably alone. And these words that we're using and saying will have some positive effects on them. And at least that's my goal. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming and for being a part of this, because, I think of you as one of the great heroes here in San Antonio. And in my life, with what you've done, saving my brother's life, and just being a good friend, and always there for me to talk to whenever
You're
I
very
need some
kind.
help. So
You're very kind.
anyway, thank you so much, and you've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany.